So, where does stress really come from? Is a question that I felt I wanted to explore because I was sitting in a networking event yesterday, and it's a lovely, lovely event that I go to every so often, and we have lunch together. So there's a talk. The talk was really good actually, um, and then we have lunch together. So we eat our starter at one table, and then some people move around for the main course. And I moved to a new table for my main course yesterday, and the conversation was um, about stress, or not really about stress, but the people, the ladies around the table, were talking about things that stressed people out. And one lady was talking about holidays and how, at one point she said, they were talking about flights being delayed, and one of the ladies had had a bit of a disastrous journey, which I really felt for her about. Um, and the other lady said, "Oh yeah, when you've had a really relaxing holiday, and then you get back on you can't get back on your plane, or your flight gets cancelled, or whatever. It's really stressful, and it spoils the fact that you've got all relaxed on your holiday." And I just sat and listened to this because I've it's only recently that I've really seen this to be absolute nonsense, really. And that isn't like absolutely. If I was delayed for 5 hours coming back from a holiday, I probably wouldn't be over the moon about it. But I think I'd have a very different relationship to it than I used to have. So when I burnt out, I could have given you a list of the things that were stressing me out. It was long. It was very, very long. And not one part of that list would have been about my thinking. I would have never said, I might have pointed to some of my inadequacies, definitely, as part of that list. Um, I would have maybe pointed to some of my life choices, but I would have never specifically said that experience of stress was being caused by by my thinking, by an inner system within me. I just wouldn't have even thought about that. And that's the story, isn't it? I always want to say that's the story in Balinori. And if you have children a similar age to mine, you'll totally understand that. But it's a reference to a children's program, which used to, they had a little song. What's the story in Balinori? Anyway, where am I going with this? Let's proceed. The whole world says, doesn't it, that the story of the world is that stress is caused by the things out there. There are many an article about, what are the 6 most stressful things, or the 5 most stressful things you can experience. I think birth, death, divorce, moving house, getting married, ironically. Isn't it? I mean, that's so cool. Just as I'm saying this, I'm like going, oh God, because getting married and getting divorced, birth and death, are they not? Are they not like 2 sides of the same? They're 2 ends of the bookends of a journey, aren't they? And we're being told all the time, like when I say, "Oh, I was a primary school head teacher and I burnt out," people will immediately point to teaching as the problem. "Oh yeah, teachers, I don't know how they cope." And I'm not saying that teaching isn't a rather ridiculous profession in terms of the expectations that teachers are put upon teachers, the pressures that are there. But the experience of stress in the body, that all that tension, all that tightness, all that um, just feeling dreadful, not sleeping, all the other things, are not caused by the things that are going on in our life. As I say, still absolutely clear that it's wrong to put human beings under ridiculous amounts of pressure. But it's like we've got, like, if we think about any situation, there is the actual situation. It's like there's parallel universes, isn't there? Because there's the actual situation that is happening to us, like a delayed flight or a job that has a lot of expectations on us. And then there's our thinking about that, which creates a completely different reality to the real reality. Now, a great example of that is, if you've got a job that seems to be very stressful, you might have noticed that on a Friday afternoon, when you're doing exactly the same job, and actually you might have quite a lot of things to finish on a Friday afternoon, you actually feel a little bit more at ease in your job, because where's your thinking starting to go? Well, your thinking is starting to go towards the fact that you're going away this weekend, or you're actually just going to chill out and do very little, or you're going to relax more. Your thinking is starting to go, oh, it's nearly over. The week's nearly over. It's starting to breathe a little bit more and relax a little bit more. And then at the opposite end of that sort of journey is the Sunday night. I spoke to somebody the other day who said that they have got to the stage now with their job that Sunday night feels terrible, and they're not at work. They're just thinking about work. And we've all had that, haven't we? That Sunday night dread, not sleeping. I mean, I've seen surveys before about how, the number of people who don't sleep on a Sunday night is much higher than every other night of the week. People are much more likely to sleep badly on a Sunday night, because they've got to go to work on a Monday and they're thinking about all the things they've got to do. And that's really it. There are these two completely separate sort of realities going on. There is the reality of I'm at work and I've got things to do. And even then, I talk a lot about overwhelm. Overwhelm is a massive part of the stress picture. That, yes, I've got a list. It's here. There's some things here. There's some things on my Asana system. There's things to do. But at the moment, all I've got is to make this video. That's it. There is nothing else going on. I don't have to do anything else. Sometimes I can feel my mind popping in. Oh, Claire, when you've done this video, you're going to have to do all these things. Like that. That's happening. That's there. But then the ease is around kind of how seriously I take that thinking. Do I take it seriously? Sometimes I do, yeah. But I can honestly say that my experience of stress has virtually disappeared, because and this is where you can kind of start to navigate this with a little bit more ease, is I now just notice more quickly that I'm going onto some train of thought that is going to take me down a path of discomfort and, just horrible, like just feeling terrible. And the underpinning thing about that is that your emotional the sensations arising in your body, the tension, the tightness, the rushed up, urgent feeling, the overwhelm, where you feel those in your body, that is letting you know that you're on a train of thought that is not helpful. It's not because of your job. It's not because of the other things happening in your world. And as I keep saying, that does not mean that you're supposed to not feel anything and that it's okay for people to treat you badly or have ridiculous expectations of you. But in actual fact, being able to create boundaries around our time and what people expect of us is an awful lot easier when we're calm. We approach other people much more calmly. I know, my fiance is still in a proper job, and I know that he definitely finds it easier now to say no to things that are just not his job. Just because he's a lot calmer and he feels he doesn't buy into the thinking says that you've got to do everything. I mean, that for me, when I burn out, was a big part of it. I need to be busy. I'm not of value if I'm not busy. I wonder how many of you can relate to that, where you just keep going and keep going because busyness is makes you feel of value in the world. So what are the what's the takeaway from this for me, hopefully for you, is that stress doesn't come from the outside world. It fundamentally does not. It comes from thought in the moment about the outside world, which is why it fluctuates so much. Your thinking is so dependent on so many different factors, including your gut bacteria and whether you've got foot fungus or not, which I heard Clare Downham say once and couldn't stop laughing about it, because it's so many things. So when we start to just not take that so seriously, when we don't believe the thought that says you've got to do it all now, there is a settling down of the body, a settling into the present moment, and that's where we really do work the best. So there's a little bit of truth about stress, which I hope is helpful today. Let me know what you think and what your thoughts are, because there's a story out there that's the complete opposite of what I've just shared, as I'm sure you're aware. Thanks for watching.